Alright, hello 7th grade. So today we're looking at comparing populations. So a couple terms before we get started. And one of them you heard last time. So the term that should be familiar is the word median. And the median, again, is the one that's in the middle once your numbers are already in order from smallest to largest. So if you want the thing that's right in the middle, it's not this, not those, not those, not those. And we're left with 2, so it's the one that's right between 12 and 14. And if you happen to know off the top of your head that between 12 and 14 you get 13, cool. If they're like bigger numbers that are further apart, all you're really doing there is you're adding those 2 and you're dividing by 2. So 12 plus 14 is 26, divided by 2 gives you 13, so that's our median. The new terms are your first quartile and your third quartile. And what those are is those are the middle of the 2 halves we just made when we said here's our median. So your first quartile is the middle of your first half. And your third quartile is the middle of your second half. So the middle of this and the middle of this. So right in the middle of these ones is 10. And right in the middle of these ones is 20. And again, those two you could just eyeball because, okay, well, we got 5 things. Right in the middle is thing number 3. Anything bigger than that, you might want to do the thing where you're crossing off the one on each end. So that's the middle. That's the middle. And the last term that we're going to look at is interquartile range. Big words. So inter meaning between, quartile meaning the quartile we just found, and range. So that's just a fancy way of saying that we're taking the third quartile minus the first quartile. So in this case, 20 minus 10 is 10. So there's our interquartile range. So we got our median, we got our interquartile range. Now the terms you'll actually see on the homework for that is you'll see your median called your center, and your interquartile range called your spread. So if you see those words, that's all we're looking for. Now, technically, there are other numbers that we could use for our center or our spread, depending on what our data looks like. But right now, we're just looking at those two. So if you see center, think median. If you see spread, think interquartile range, which is just your third quartile minus your first quartile. Okay. Let's try another one of those. So let's say we want our center and our spread here. So again, our center is just our middle as we're going in order. So not these two. I'm just going to cross out those, cross out those. Not actually going to cross them off because we might need to read them later. Not those, not those. So right between these two. Now, if you don't know off the top of your head what's right between 24 and 30, okay, we're going to take 24 plus 32 divided by 2. And just a heads up that if you're plugging that into your calculator, either hit enter right after the 24 plus 32 and then divide by 2, or stick some parentheses around it so your calculator knows you don't want this. Because if you just plug in 24 plus 32 divided by 2, your calculator will think order of operations and it'll do this first. That's not what you want. So right between 24 and 32, 24 plus 32 is 56. Divided by 2 is 28. So our median, or our center, whichever thing we're calling that, is 28. Okay, and then if we want our interquartile range or our spread, we're going to look for our first quartile and we're going to look for our third quartile. So we're going to split it out our median. And right in the middle of this is 90. Right in the middle of this is 47. So 47 minus 19 is 28. I did not do that on purpose. So our interquartile range, which I'm just going to call IQR, is also 28. So our median's at 28, and then we got a 28 number spread between our 2 quartiles. That was just coincidence. They will very rarely end up being the same number. Okay, now, what if our numbers don't look like that? What if our numbers are a graph? So we get a little graph here, and what this is this is telling us that we have 1 1, we have 2 3s, we have 2 4s, we have 3 5s, we have 1 6, and 1 7. And really the big thing is just getting from there to there, because once we're here, we're just doing the same thing we were doing before. So we got our 1, 2, 3, yep, we got 10 numbers, so it's not these two, not these two, not these two, not these two, on the ones right in the middle. And again, if we don't have one number, if we have two, we just want to take 4 plus 5 divided by 2. 4 plus 5 is 9. 9 over 2 is 4.5. Or if you left that as 9 halves, that's fine too. So that's our median. And then we want our interquartile range. So we're going to split it at our median. Right in the middle of these is 3. Right in the middle of these is 5. 5 minus 3 is 2. So our interquartile range is 2. Cool. But we said at the start that this was comparing populations, plural. This is really just one. So what we're actually doing with this is we're saying, well, what if we've got 2 of them and we want to compare them? So if we've got 2 groups of people that we asked, say, how much time they spent on their homework, and these were their answers, and we want to compare the 2 groups. So we're looking for our medians and we're looking for our interquartile ranges for both of these groups. So the first group in purple up here, and these numbers, importantly, go with both of these graphs. So this is a 20 in purple, and a 30 and a 30. And then 4 40s, 40, 40, 40, 40, and then 3 50s. Okay, and then our red numbers, we've got a 10, a 20, a 30, 2 40s, 3 50s, and then a 60. Okay. So if we want to find our median, that's right in the middle. So not those, not those, not those, not those, right between these two. And if they happen to be the same thing, that's what we want. So our median is 40. And then our interquartile range, we're going to split it at our median. Right in the middle of these is 30. Right in the middle of these is 50. 50 minus 30 is 20. And now we're going to do the same thing with the bottom one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so right between. Oops. I'm missing a number. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's because I only put 9 on here. Let's call that another 60. My bad. Okay, so let's say we get those. Now we have 10 numbers. So I mean, it would still work if you only had 9. I just wanted to be consistent and have 10 on both of them. So let's say we've got these numbers, and we got middle of those, middle of those, middle of those, middle of those. So middle would be right between this 40 and this 50. And if you happen to know that right between 40 and 50 is 45, good for you. If not, go ahead and plug 40 plus 50 in. That gives you 90, divided by 2 gives you 45. And then our interquartile range, we're going to split it at our median. Okay, middle of here is 30. Middle of here is 50. 50 minus 30 is 20. Okay, so they have the same, actually, interquartile range, but the purple group has a slightly lower median than the red group. So they both get about the same spread, but the red one has a slightly higher center. So the center's more like here rather than about here. Okay, so pretty similar groups going on there, but if you wanted to compare them, you could say they have the same interquartile range. The red group has a higher median. Alright, let's try one more. Let's say instead of little graphs with X's, let's say we've got a couple box plots. And box plots, actually, a lot of the work is done for you, because if you're looking at a box plot, this number right in the middle of your box is your median. And the numbers on the ends of your boxes are your first quartile and your third quartile. So you don't even need to go through and find those. So if you get a box plot, that part's done for you. So if we got a couple of groups that we asked their number of Snapchats per day, I should call these groups A and B or something to distinguish them besides top and bottom. So we asked group A and group B the number of Snapchats that they sent per day, or snaps, or whatever they're called. Anyway. And we got these results, and we want to compare the two. So if we're looking at group A, our median is, and again, these numbers go with both, so our median is 40. And our interquartile range is, again, our third quartile, which is 60 here, because that 60 goes with it, minus our first quartile, which is 30, so 60 minus 30 is 30. Okay, if we're looking at group B, our median is 30. And our interquartile range is our third quartile, which is 40, minus our first quartile, which is 20. 40 minus 20 is 20. Okay, so if we wanted to compare those, since this one has a higher median, most of the people in this group sent more snaps than this group, so this group had a higher snap rate, and our interquartile range is smaller here, so there's also not as big a spread in the number of snaps sent. So this group sent more snaps, and they also had a wider range in their number of snaps. Alright, I don't know if they're called Snapchat snaps. I don't know slang. Okay. So that's what's going on with center and spread. And the last term you're going to need to know for the homework is the word symmetric. So the last term you're going to need to know for a little bit of the homework is symmetric. You probably already know what that means, but most of the time when we said symmetric so far, we've been talking about shapes. Right now we're talking about data. So it's symmetric if it's the same on both sides. So if I want these little graphs here, if I can draw a line straight through my middle here and it's the same on both sides, it's symmetric. If I can't, it's not. So if I even threw one more X over here, that would not be symmetric. Unless I also did this. So in order to be symmetric, it needs to be exactly the same. And the thing you want to watch out for on one of the ones on the homework is if you have, like, a box, and this part looks symmetric, and say this part looks symmetric, but then you got a little asterisk out here for an outlier, that's still not symmetric because there's that one little thing that's throwing it off. So that's the one you want to watch out for on one of the homework ones with symmetric stuff. Other than that, it's pretty much the stuff we were doing with center and spread. So go ahead and check out the homework in the description, and I'll see you in the next video.